Okay, question. How many gulags are there in the capitalist countries?
There's 3 million people in the United States.
How many gulags?
The U.S. has the largest prison system in the world.
They own prisons, and that does not include juvenile facilities. That does not include immigration facilities. And there are also close to 5 million people under surveillance.
Let me tell you live behind Iron Curtain, okay? Let me tell you, because I lived through that. If this is the place you want to get to...
What's Putin's Russia? Let's look at it. What's Putin's Russia today? Is that capitalism?
I'm talking about USSR.
I'm talking about Putin's Russia. Like, let's talk about the actual system.
The second biggest party in Russia today is Communist Party in Russian Federation.
Why don't we talk about the actual system that you guys talk about?
I'll explain. Yes, they do. Of course, some do. Of course. Yes.
And then there are CIA black sites located throughout the world that are basically controlled.
Yes, I know. Did I ever say that the Russians are smart? No, they're not. And this, but here's my point. Okay, let's be. Speaking of racism, you're a Muslim, right? You're not. Okay, but whatever. You wear this Palestinian, whatever.
We support nationalism.
Okay, so let's do one thing at a time. Now, if you want to talk about racism, if you want to talk about nationalism, you cannot find a more racist, a more nationalist country in the world than the USSR and the Russians. Muslims specifically, Muslims specifically, Stalin, you say Russians like Stalin? Remember what he did during the Second World War. I'm not talking about all people in China. He murdered 50 million people. But speaking about each nationality, let me finish first. So let me finish. So let's talk about So let's talk about certain nationalities in particular. Have you ever heard about Chechens?
Yes.
You know about Chechens.
We know about the internal deportations. We know all that.
So how can you say they're not racist?
In the middle of World War II, where Nazi Germany killed 20 million people, funded Ukrainian partisans to that were pro-Nazis to destroy the rest of the world.
Even today, they celebrate that
the actual process of what the Soviet Union did to actually fight Nazi Germany in that war had any legitimacy? We're talking about in the United States where they threw away how many Japanese people within no internal contradiction. There was no threat of Japanese invasion of the United States, right? And that was done here, right? We're talking about Soviet Union where Nazi Germany did invade right into the Caucasus Mountains.
Really?
Let's have some perspective.
Okay, when I have some if you want to talk about the Second World War, when did the Second War start?
It started in 1937, if you want to be technical, because Japan invaded China. That was the first actual battle of World War II.
Okay, what about Europe? What about the Nazis?
1939.
1939. When? Specifically when?
When Germany invaded Poland.
Correct. And what did the Russians do 17 days later?
Poland too.
So
you know why, right?
You know why, right?
Do you know why? The history of that, right? Can we explain the history very simply?
Please do.
Because this is very well documented. Soviet Union proposed already from the very beginning, since '36, a united front between British and France to actually invade Germany. They put forward that front way beforehand. And for a long time, the British and the French ignored them, because what the British and French were doing was foreign policy-wise. Even Winston Churchill talks about it. He talked about antagonizing Germany as a bulwark state against the Soviet Union to have them fight together. The Soviet Union signed a non-aggression pact with Germany in order to avoid the actual war with Germany itself, to allow the imperialists to fight themselves.
Okay, so...
Is that not true? Was that not the actual foreign policy behind
Chamberlain and Hitler.
Yeah, Chamberlain, Hitler, Munich Agreement.
Stalin was trying to side with them. He was trying to side with them against them.
Was not Mussolini in the pay of British intelligence? Was not Hitler himself in the pay of British intelligence before he came to power?
When the Second World War started, what did the Soviets do to the Baltic states?
They invaded them.
And what did they do to the people of the Baltic states?
What were the Baltic states? Do you know what kind of states they had in there? They had right-wing dictatorships. There's no democracy in it. They were pro.
Okay, so let me try to.
We're talking about a war.
Let me try to understand it correctly. So, in your socialist mind, you think that it's a-okay.
Not socialist mind. The objective. It's okay objectively to actually invade a fascist
country. In your socialist mind, when I'm looking at the hammer and sickle, hammer and sickle.
Yes.
The system that I lived,
Workers and peasants
the
together.
system that I lived in for 29 years.
Okay.
The system that killed tens of millions, and hear me out, the most important word, innocent people. Totally innocent people. That's the system that you advocate. That's the system that you think is
with all that
superior.
loaded, with all that loaded stuff that you put into it, yes. In simple words, yes. With all the loaded stuff in there, because we're talking about this system, right? In which, in comparison, consistently, historically, exploits,
Genocide.
destroys, and murders the world's people to a further extent than that, right? We're talking about how many millions of people die every year.
Sure.
The exact number of that. How many people? 50 million?
Okay,
Where did
let's
you get
cut,
the number
you know,
from?
for argument's sake,
What number?
let's
Where did you get it
let's
from?
cut 50 million to 10 million
Where did
to
you
make
get
you
it?
happy.
Where did you get it from?
So did the Soviets kill 10 million
No,
people?
but I
Did the
asked-
Soviets kill at least 10 million people?
No, they didn't. But can I ask you?
Let's go into
Because-
let's go into systems analysis.
Exactly.
Wait, let's
So,
go into systems
let's
analysis
go to
then.
the
All right,
system.
fine.
Okay,
When
yes.
we're talking about actually,
So how
what's
many
rational about the capitalist world system?
how many
I asked you
people?
a question. Where did you get that number from?
Because that's the statistical number. How many people did Mao Zedong kill?
Who said that number? Did you draw it on?
They say 100. They say from 6 million to 100 million.
Do you know how many?
Depends who's saying.
It depends who says it.
Do you know how many people live in America?
There's 300 million people.
How do you know that?
Census.
Oh, really? I don't believe this number. Who said there are 300 million of
Come
America?
on.
It's
That's a much different
baloney.
thing. That's a much different thing because
Well-
because the Soviet scholarship itself goes from anywhere from 5 million to over 50 million people.
So-
that's a huge drastic number,
Okay,
right?
okay. You know,
but
my friend. So let's assume that you're right. Let's
let's assume I am right,
let's say
right?
it's
Yeah,
let's say it's only 5 million
I didn't
people.
say it was only 5 million, but let's assume it was.
Okay, it's only between 5 and 15 million people.
25. That's the scholarship of the bourgeoisie.
innocent,
Yes. What?
innocent people.
You say innocent. Okay, go on.
Say innocent.
Yes, I do say innocent.
You say innocent.
Yes,
Okay.
I do
Let's
say.
move on.
Well,
Let's
Let's
move on.
talk about U.S.
Be-
history. Let's talk about U.S.
because-
history.
Well, because-
you're drawing this out in one direction. Let's go into a systems analysis
yes,
of capitalism
exactly.
and socialism.
So-
right now, right?
so-
What's the meaning of it?